mountain pose, standing mountain pose if you want. The nice thing about seated is it's easy to close your eyes. So not as easy standing. You have to be really careful actually if you're standing with the eyes shut. But with the eyes closed, we're able to bring our attention inward, or bring our attention more to feeling what's happening with our bodies. And in the practice of Hatha Yoga, which is what we'll be practicing today, that's an important part, is being able to feel what's going on. And we start by feeling our good posture. So good posture means being able to extend the spine up and having those nice curves in the back. The curve at the bottom, the lumbar spine goes in a little. The curve between the shoulder blades is going out the opposite direction behind you. And the curve at the neck, the smallest vertebra in the neck are going the same direction as the lumbar, which is kind of bending this way. And those are our natural curves. We were born with those. And that's why they're so important. The bones fit together better with those natural curves. They were designed to fit with those curves. When we're over curved, or when we're really flat or curved the wrong way, it's not what was intended. It's not what we were born with anyway. And then we, sitting up nice and tall, we use the breath to help give us this feeling of a lift. So it can be nice to rest the hands on the belly like this. So my belly button is about right here. I like to put my tips of my middle fingers right on the belly button, and then spread the fingers out along the whole belly. So I can really feel the whole belly moving as I breathe in. It gets bigger. So from the tips of my pinky fingers all the way up to the tips of my thumbs are almost up, really kind of at my lower ribs. And with my hands spread like this, I can feel the belly. I can feel the belly spread out into my hands as I breathe in. And then as I go back, as I exhale, I can feel the skin here actually shortening, or it's contracting. So really like a balloon, as if your belly was a balloon. And if you put your hand on a balloon, you notice how big and round it is. And then, of course, with no air in it, it's really flat and soft. So let's stay like this, and starting all the way down at the feet, feel the feet on the floor, or feel the soles of the feet in your shoes on the floor. We want to be able to feel that support underneath the feet, that connection with something beneath us. And then come up to the sitting bones, come up to the buttocks. So the sitting bones are at the base of the pelvis. I mean, you can't see them, but they're basically right where the perineum is. So at the very bottom of the pelvis, you may feel them if your chair is firm or hard. And then as we inhale, as we feel the belly get bigger, we allow the spine to extend up by gently pressing the feet and pressing the sitting bones into the chair. Or have this feeling of pressing. And that's going to help give us some lift. And then as we exhale, we soften, release, relax, let go of the shoulders, relax the face and the eyes. We'll do this a few times. And we want to tune into the rhythm of the breath. So breathing in first, and then thinking about extending the spine up. So the breath becomes our primary focus. And then as we exhale, we soften, and we still keep the length in the spine though. So don't lose the length in the spine as you exhale. So there's a bit of letting go, a bit of relaxing and releasing on the shoulders and the arms and the legs and the buttocks, but there's still a feeling of support and rising in the spine. So the center, right up the center of the body. We'll do this a couple more times. So we call this seated mountain pose, or if you're standing, standing mountain pose. And you may notice that if you sit like this for a little bit of time, even just a couple of minutes, oftentimes the breath begins to slow down a little bit without us doing anything. So as we become more natural in our breathing, we let go of the effort, we just let the breath come naturally, it automatically slows down. And that in turn begins to slow the rest of the body down. It slows the mind down, it slows the heart down, lowers the blood pressure, which for most of us are good things. And continue to breathe, and let's listen to a sound. Exhaling, softening, releasing, relaxing, letting go. Breathing in, sitting up nice and tall. Exhaling, softening, releasing, letting go. Last time. Inhaling, sitting up nice and tall. Exhaling, softening, releasing, letting go. So using the breath and using the sound of a singing bowl to center us as we begin our practice. So bringing our attention to right here, right now, to what we're doing. And let's begin by bringing the palms together in front of the heart in prayer position. And then go ahead and find your good posture again. Make sure you feel like you have good posture. And you can also adjust a little bit if you need to wiggle your bottom a little so that you can feel the sitting bones better. If you need to move the feet a little further apart, a little further out for stability, that's okay. Usually, if they're too close together, it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel stable. So a little wider might feel better. And then we're going to inhale up and exhale down. So as we do the inhalations and the exhalations, the arms are following. So as we inhale and lift the heart, the hands are rising up. So notice that the movement follows the breath. The movement follows the breath. And notice as you lift up, the feet gently pressing into the floor and the buttocks, the sitting bones pressing gently into the chair. So that's our support. You could even feel as you press down, feel the spine lifting up, and let the arms help to lift the spine up or give us that feeling of lifting, that feeling of opening the chest. So as I open my chest, there's a broadening across the collarbones here. And then as the arms float down, there's a relaxation in the shoulders, a softening in the shoulder blades. And then my palms come together and I begin again. And you might notice here that as you begin to find a rhythmical breath, that the breath slows down a little bit, and that means that the arms are going to go a little slower because remember the arms are tied to the breath. And then we're going to come together in the middle. We're going to go back the other way. I'm going to pause there for a moment, sit up nice and tall with a breath. And then as we exhale, we relax the hands down, almost like they're free falling. And then they come up and come together, and then they exhale down. Inhale up. So the up is, the arms coming up is another opportunity to lift and open the chest. Perhaps the chin lifts slightly, and perhaps the hips rock forward slightly. So these are slight movements. Remember, we don't want to overdo the curves in the back. We don't want to underdo them or overdo them. We want them to be about what they are normally, naturally. A little extra is okay, a little less is okay. It's also important that the shoulders are relaxed here. So if you find that as you lift your hands, if your hands are going all the way up and your shoulders are all the way up by your ears and are uncomfortable, please don't go up so high. Don't go up so high. So we always have to be paying attention to what we're feeling. And here's another place where if you're seated, you could close your eyes here if that's comfortable for you. And then you're just feeling. There's no vision. You really have to zero in on feeling and paying attention to, are my shoulders relaxed? Am I able to keep my face and eyes soft? And then we'll go ahead and bring the hands down. Let's roll the shoulders up and back. This will help open the chest a little bit. And then do a little backstroke. So a little warm up. It's a little warmer out today, but we still need a nice warm up here. So we're keeping the shoulders relaxed here too. So if you're trying to reach too far back with the hand, you might find the shoulders are lifting up too much. So feel free to bring the elbows down a little bit and work a little lower too. You might even experiment, and you might see what it feels like, because of course we're not really swimming. This is really just the motion of swimming. And you might find that keeping the elbows down and the hands down a little further is the shoulder joint feels like it's getting a better movement, rather than a big movement or a high movement. Those might be okay too, but perhaps a lower movement and even a smaller one. The circles can be smaller. Let's go the other way. So swimming the other way now. And the same thing applies here, figuring out what the movement, how big a movement you want, and how far out you're reaching, maybe even how quickly you're moving. So you could try slowing down a little bit. You could even tie the movement to the breath if you wanted. And you could do it either inhaling, reaching out, exhaling, coming back with the arm, inhaling, or you could try the opposite. I think I prefer to reach out and breathe and then exhale on the way back. And perhaps that's because there's a little more openness, there's a little more room to breathe with the arm stretching out. And then one more time on the other side. And now let's roll the shoulders again back in the opposite direction. And we'll bring the hands together and do some cactus breathing here. So letting the arms float back and forth as we inhale and breathe in, exhaling. So we're inhaling. Maybe give a little sigh as you exhale. And exhaling. Feel free, if you'd like, to give yourselves a little hug, perhaps starting with just a small hug or on the elbows. And then we can work our way a little further, going up to the triceps, and perhaps even up to the shoulders. Without straining, though, we want to feel like this feels okay. And if you feel like you're straining, if it feels like you're reaching, really having to reach to wrap yourself up, then that's straining. You want to avoid that. And the other possibility is perhaps you can reach back and touch the shoulder blades behind you. Don't lose the fluidity, though. If you're wrapping yourself up and you're not feeling fluidity with the arms, then you might want to back off a little. The idea really, this is a combination of fluidness and also the stretching. When we wrap ourselves with the arms, we get a nice opening of the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades come apart behind us, and then bring the arms down, so roll the shoulders back again. And let's rub the hands together. We're going to do a little warm up for the joints. It's still, even though it's a lot warmer today than it's been, now the back of the hands, it's still not, I wouldn't say it's not warm out, and it's unlikely to be summer weather anytime soon here. If you're in a different spot in the country, maybe you're enjoying some warmer weather. That would be really nice. And opening and closing the fingers. So let's start with that. Just opening and closing. And I noticed that when I rub my hands together, my hands are a little pinker. You might not be able to see it on the screen, but I can see it by looking down at my hands. They're actually pinker from rubbing them together. So that, when it's cold, that's a good thing. And now let's do the feet too. We've been practicing things together, so I'm going to take I'll take one sock off so you can see. And actually, let's rest the hands. Try the feet for a second. So resting the feet, I'll take both socks off. Resting the feet so that you can feel the bottoms of the feet, and notice that the way the feet are designed is there's a arch here, so there's a space, and then there's full contact along the ball of the foot underneath here, as well as the outside edge and also the heel back here. So try to keep the toes pointed straight ahead, and notice if your arches are lifted, and then lift the toes up. Lift the toes up, but leave the rest of the feet where they are. So my arches aren't really doing anything. They're just sitting there. The balls of the feet are in contact with the floor, as well as the heels and the outside edges. So this may take a little bit of practice to get these the toes to lift up. But let's try this too. Now we're going to hold the hands out, and we're going to lift the fingers up and the toes at the same time, and then close. Even though I'm making a fist, I'm not squeezing. I'm opening and closing. And when my toes come down, I'm actually just relaxing them down. Relaxing. So up and down, and up and down, and up and down. See if you can get the rhythm the same in the toes and the feet, so that as the toes lift up, the fingers are lifting up with the same rhythm. So they reach the end. So this is fully extended for both and lifted, and then they come back down, and the toes touch down, and the palms are the hands are come together like this at the same time. You could even imagine that you have connections. Imagine there's a string between, I forgot the thumbs. We'll do the thumbs too. Imagine there's a string attached from each finger. So the thumb to big toe, index, next toe, blah, blah, all the way down. See if you can feel that connection there between the fingers and the toes. And what's happening here is we're really, our brain is feeling the experience as if it was all happening, as if it was connected. So we're connecting it by doing it together and feeling it together. Oh, so another one is you can close your eyes. Try closing the eyes. And then feel what's going on. And you can lift your toes even if they're in shoes. They might not lift as much. Just get a slight engagement. And we're not straining. It's not how high we lift up. There's actually my toes, even though they're lifting up, there's no straining going on in my feet. They don't feel, I'm not trying really hard. I'm not like this, trying to get things to move. I'm inviting them in a way to move. Nice and easy. And then bring the hands down. And let's rock from side to side on our buttocks. So going like this. Back and forth like this, just to wake the feet up again. So we're coming down with control. So when the feet touch on the ground, they're not banging down. Make sure it's nice and soft. Softly coming down. And if you want more, make it harder, go a little higher with the leg, and even go a little slower with the leg. Coming down, especially going down slowly. So we have a tendency to just drop the foot down because gravity pulls it down, but keep it up there if you want to do more work here. And then think about, let's come back here for 1 minute. Think about extending the spine. So we want to keep the spine lengthened, just like in our seated mountain pose, as we move like this. And that's going to mean that we activate the core muscles here. So this area in the middle of the torso is going to firm up. It's going to firm up. It's a little bit like, let's come back and just sit up in mountain pose. We practiced another way where we're keeping the torso firm and only lifting the knee like this. So lifting the knee up, but keeping the rest of the body with not moving. Don't let it move. And it really takes a lot of effort. You really have to tighten everything up here. And if that's challenging, start by just lifting the heel up. Start by lifting the heel up and feel the engagement here in the quadricep when you do that. So the weight begins to lift out of the foot. In order to lift the foot up, in order to shift the weight, we have to support this side of the body. And we do that with the quadricep and also the belly, especially on this side and the sides. So lifting up. And then eventually, if you start to lift the heel up, the toe wants to come off, and you can lift the toe up. And if you want to make it more challenging, you can lift up higher and slower, just like when we were going back and forth. Higher and slower, so there's no momentum here. And we're actually making sure gravity, we're not using gravity here. We're working against gravity, really. You could also add an arm if you wanted. Lifting up like this, and then coming down. And then the other side. And if if this is too slow, and you want something a little bit more energetic maybe, then go a little faster. That's okay too. So you'll have to decide these things. You also might find that it's a little easier, a little more fluidity here. It's a little easy. It feels better. It feels better. I don't want to say it's easier. It may not be easier, but maybe it feels better to you, and it's something you enjoy more. And it's really important, when we exercise, when we do these poses, when we do these movements, these exercises, it's important that we enjoy them. If we don't, we won't continue with them. We'll quit. And that's not a good thing. You know, doing something, getting out and doing something is a good idea. So let's see. So we did the toes. Let's rock the feet. So rocking the feet back and forth. So turn sideways so you can see this one. So as you're rocking, just like when we lifted the toes up, think about feeling the movement, slowing down, feeling the fronts of the feet lifting up, and then feel the whole bottom of the foot touch for a moment, and then feel the heel lifting up. And you're going to also be able to feel the alternation between the muscles along the shin and the muscles on the calf. So when we lift the heels up, the calf muscles are mostly working. And when we lift the toes up, it's the muscles along the shin. And if that's not clear, you could even reach down. You can feel them. You can feel them relax and then contract. And that's what we want. We want that alternation of that rocking. And let's try this. We're going to rock the feet. Hold the arms out like this and touch the shoulders as you rock. See if you can get that to work. So lifting up and then coming down, rocking the other way. Lifting up. So the way I'm doing it is I'm lifting the fingers up to touch the shoulders and at the same time lifting the heels up. And then as I come down, I lift my toes up and my hands touch the knees. So now my toes are up, hands are touching the knees, and then I go back and forth like this. And continue on just a little bit longer. Continue on a little bit longer, and then you can rest for a moment. And we're going to slide forward in the chair, and we do some circles. So the circles that we're doing, we want to keep the spine lengthened. So if you're at all uncertain about lengthening the spine, just pause for a moment. If you're okay with circling, spine is long, keep going. You can always come back to mountain pose, lengthen the spine up to get that feeling. We want the feeling of lengthening, and then begin your circle. And even start the circle small so that you can still feel the lengthening. So now I'm doing this sort of little circle like this, and I can feel more easily the lengthening. And then as I can continue to feel the lengthening, I can make the circles a little bigger. You also might want to make the feet a little wider apart for support. You can also have the hands on the knees for support. And if this is, you want it more challenging, you don't have to use the hands. You could even stir. Sometimes I'm not sure we've done this recently, but it is soup time. It's warm enough, it's cold enough where you can make soup and really appreciate it. Nice hot soup. You can stir your soup like this. Imagine you have a big pot. You're making a soup for Thanksgiving. And let's go the other way. So perhaps soup for a lot of people. And if people can't come to you for Thanksgiving, and I know we're not canceling, but not many people, it may just be the two of us. So, but you could still make food, and we're planning to do that, and actually give it to the people that were going to come to the Thanksgiving meal. We trade food. It's kind of a fun thing to still do, and people can enjoy it. And usually at things like Thanksgiving, you get people's best stuff. You get their best dishes. So hopefully they'll make their best dish, and then everybody will trade to share. And then sitting up nice and tall, just pause for a moment. Actually, just do a few cactus breaths like this. Inhale, exhale. And if you want, you can add that hug to it. Remember to change the cross of the arms if you're hugging, though. See if you get a little more freedom now, a little more freedom in the shoulders after you warmed up a little. If this is a little easier, more comfortable, feels better. And then come on down and let's do the neck. Actually, let's massage the ears first. We've been doing that to help to soften up the neck area. So I'm working up and down the ears, very gently squeezing and then letting the ear move through. I'll come closer so you can see. Letting the ear move through the fingers like this, kind of like a massage. So there's no pain or discomfort here. There shouldn't be any pain or discomfort in the ears. They should feel nice. And now let's lift the chin up and then think about bowing the head down without just the weight of the head though. I'm not forcing the chin down. I'm letting the weight of the head do all the work here. So going up and down. And if you bow the head, when you bow the head, if it feels like the neck is getting squashed or kind of crushed, you could even rest your hand like this and just let the chin come down on the back of the hand to keep the neck open. So that's the feeling that we want. When we release the chin down, we want a feeling of, maybe an openness isn't the right word, but we don't want to feel like it's all closed up in the front. So we release the head down and then lift it up. The other thing you could do is, I'll turn sideways so you can see, before the chin comes down, you can lift it up and out slightly and then very softly release it down. Almost like we get a little lift and a little space with the chin lifting out, and then we let the chin come down. But it's very important to feel the openness, because if you close this off, it makes it feel like you can't breathe. So we don't want to do that. We always breathe in this class. Even though there are some yoga practices where you may hold the breath a little bit, we don't do them very much. They're actually not, they're not practiced that much. Unless you really practice a lot and it's become so comfortable to hold the breath or to not breathe. That's a better way to think about it, is we just pause the breath rather than force it to not breathe. And sitting up nice and tall, and we'll let the ears tip side to side. If you want, you can add your pillow with your hands. Maybe give a little sigh as you rest your head on the pillow. Like it's maybe nap time. That'd be nice. Take just a little brief siesta maybe. If you've been up for a while, then, a little rest, a little shutting your eyes can be nice. Even just to let your eyes rest from all the light. It's a bright, sunny day though today, so it's nice out. And then we're gonna paint with the nose, moving the nose back and forth. So once you can feel the movement here, try closing the eyes. Try closing the eyes. Don't worry about what it looks like. Nobody sees you. Sometimes we're overly focused on what we look like. And it's really, so much of our yoga practice is really about what are we feeling when we're doing these poses. Are we extending the spine and sitting up tall and breathing naturally? And are we feeling like the movement, the pose feels good? those three things, the breath, the posture, and the how does it feel, are probably more important than how it looks. And sitting up nice and tall. Lastly, we're going to circle the head around. And then go back the other way. And this is another one where slowing down might be nice, especially if you tend to get any dizziness. Try slowing down and going nice and slow. See if that helps with the dizziness. Also, closing the eyes might help with dizziness. You could also have, if you're at all, any issues with balance or dizziness, have a chair with arms on it. You can rest your arms on the chair, and if you need to, you can just stop there. You can just stop for a moment, and your arms will help to give you some stability. And please go the other way, and then back the other way, and then sitting up nice and tall. Now let's rock from side to side. A few more times, warm up a little bit more, and we're going to transition to our standing, or you could do seated. So we're going to do our more of the yoga poses now. We're going to start with a balance pose. So feel free, if you want to, if you're going to be in your chair, feel free to stand up for mountain pose, or stay seated in mountain pose. So please decide what you'd like to do. And if you're standing against a wall, with a wall behind you, and then you'll know whether or not your back feels straight. So we want to have a straight back. We want our back to be nice and straight, without leaning back though, without leaning. So there's this lengthening up, and we're just gently touching, if we're using the wall, just gently touching the wall behind us without leaning. And the same thing can be done with seated in the chair. So if you're doing this seated, feel free to use the back of the chair and try not to lean back. We sometimes lean back when we're resting, but try not to lean back for this one, but just feel the back of the chair and then extend the spine up. So we're balanced. We're balanced. The chair is just for alignment, to help us be aligned. If you need the back of the chair for support, please use it. But if you don't, just gently touch it. So I'm going to stand up here, and we're going to start with tree pose. So standing up nice and tall in our mountain pose. Feet are grounded. Spine is lifting up. Shoulders are lifting up and back and down. Let's try that a few times. Lifting up. Actually, let's do this. We've been practicing opening the heart with a passive position. And passive means we're not actively engaging anything. We are getting ourselves in a position. So this is one position like this. I'll turn around so you can see. Is with the fingers interlaced like this. You could also work with the hands like this. Notice how my fingers are pointing down and the thumbs are pointing to the side. I could also work with my hands on the hips like this. Notice that all of these, the chest opens, the shoulders move back. It's important in these, any pose that you pick, that the shoulders not be rising up. So just resting with the whatever pose you're in, resting like this and standing up tall with good posture, or sitting up tall. So if you're seated, you'll have to slide forward in the chair if you want to interlace your fingers behind you. So you could work in the chair with the hands on the side of the chair even, or back like. Can also be nice in the chair. You get a little more opening in the heart if you take the arms and you rotate the thumbs out like you're going to hitchhike, like you're hitchhiking, and then you can rest the hands with the thumbs pointing out and the fingers pointing back like this. You notice you get a nice opening in the heart. You could even work with reaching down and trying to find a spot on the bottom of the chair somewhere. Maybe even, depends on your chair. Some chairs you might actually be able to grab the legs of the chair. So figuring out, part of our practice is always in and release. So that's a good practice to do anytime, if you can remember to do it every hour or so, especially if you're sitting at a computer and just sort of hanging out like this. So it's no big deal. I'm just interlacing my fingers, and it actually feels nice after a while. So there's no strain, there's no stress. The only thing I think about is maybe taking a few nice breaths. And then exhaling, softening, relaxing. That feels nice. And let's do tree pose. So we'll come into our mountain pose. Mountain pose, feet are pressing, legs are extending, spine is extending, shoulders are moving back and down, fingertips are pointing down towards the floor. And then I'm going to just tap one leg like this. This will be our straight leg. So we want to firmly press the foot. We lengthen the whole leg. So the buttocks here engages, the gluteal muscles here engage, the quadricep engages, and then we're going to turn the leg out like this, right out in the hip, right in the groin. So we open the groin. The groin is right here. There's an opening as if the same was with the shoulder like this. Let's even do that. This is a nice combination movement. You could just work with the leg if you wanted. You could work with the leg. You could also, if you put your hand on the groin like this, you'll feel an opening here. This broadens right here when I turn my leg out. So I'm not turning my knee is just going out because my thigh is turning out. And same with the foot. I'm not really turning my foot or my knee out because remember the knee is a hinge joint. It does this. It doesn't twist. It doesn't twist well. And let's do the other side. So standing up nice and tall, press the opposite foot now, pat that leg. So this is our standing leg. So this quadricep is firm. The buttock, you can pat the buttock back here. It's firm. The whole side is firm. There's a rising up as I step out with the thigh like this. So a few more times. And again, you can remember you can if you put your fingers right in the groin, you'll feel an opening. I feel the leg come back, and then I feel it open. Or I could add the arm to it like this. I feel the opening in the shoulder. I feel the opening in the groin. So making a little connection between feeling them at the same time. Kind of like when we were doing the fingers and the toes. Using the connection. And it might be that you can feel the shoulder opening more easily than the groin, and then that kind of helps the feeling up here helps the feeling down in the front of the groin. It kind of teaches one part of the body, teaches another part of the body. And let's come back, and now we'll do our tree pose, but with the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf like this if you want, or you could continue to work. You could just open like this and rest the toes on the floor, so most of the weight's on the leg, a little bit on the toes, your choice. Standing up nice and tall, and let's see, patting the straight leg, the firm leg, buttocks are firm, quadricep is firm, pressing the foot down, lifting the arch up. You can do that by contracting the inner groin here, the inner thigh. Think about moving the sitting bones together, moving the sitting bones or the inner thigh muscles right here, bringing them together, compacting the hips together, bringing the hips together like this. And you'll feel that in the buttocks when you do that, when you bring the hips together, the buttocks activate. And then patting the leg and opening, and then finding a spot for the sole of the foot. And then you can add your arms if you want. Remember to use your chair, though, if there's any balance issues. So if you have any issues with balance, or you're even concerned about balance, have your chair handy. There's nothing wrong with it. You can always have two chairs. You can have one behind you and one in front. You could even just be a one-limbed tree like this. That's okay too. And then come on down through the other side. Coming back to mountain pose. So become balanced first. Feel evenness in the feet, evenness in the legs. Spine is nice and even in the middle. And then press the opposite foot into the floor. Lift the arch up by activating these inner thigh muscles, squeezing them together. And then buttocks, gluteal muscles firm up, hips compact, extend the spine up, and then shift the weight into this leg, and then open. And if you want, you can bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf, and then you can add the arms. And elevate your gaze, elevate your thoughts. Face is nice and soft. See if you can smile here. So tree pose can be a challenging pose. You can always touch down and come back. And then go ahead and bring the arms down. And then just shake out for a second. Shake out for a moment like this. You can even shake out the legs. Remember, if you need to, take something for balance here. If you want to shake the legs out, you can always shake out like this. Having the hands on the chair, or you can shake out. I don't think you can do two legs at the same time. I know I can't. And standing up nice and tall. And take a few breaths. So if you'd like to experiment here, you may have just noticed I had my eyes closed. If you've never done that before and you're standing, please use a chair, but you could experiment. And if you don't want to close your eyes all the way, I would suggest that starting with just shutting them a little bit so that you don't see everything, but your eyes are a little more closed and it's a little bit easier to feel. So remember, as we remove our visual, the things that we see visually, our attention focuses more on what we're feeling. We're able to feel more because we're expending less energy looking at things, and we have that space in our brains available to feel things, or maybe even to smell things or touch things. Our senses are, even though we have multiple senses, we oftentimes, we only have so much brain capacity to be able to engage those individual senses. So we can't engage all the senses fully at once. So when we get rid of some of the stimuli, then we have room for the other ones in the brain. And we're going to step back. So I'd like to try this today. It's similar to what we've done, but I was practicing this yesterday. And I'm going to bend my knees ever so slightly, and I'm going to step back. So notice right now that both knees are bent, and then I'm going to straighten and stand up nice and tall. and then I'm going to bend, and then I'm going to step back. So there's a very slight bend in the knees, not a big bend, not a big bend. Just stepping back with a small bend and then straightening and standing up. So noticing that the movement of the feet back and forth, there's a softening of the knees. Maybe think of it that way. Soften the knees and then straighten and stand up nice and tall. Making sure that the feet are pointing straight ahead. So when we bend the knees, we don't want the knees to go out to the side. We want to make sure the knees are pointing straight ahead and the toes are pointing straight ahead as I go up and down. So let's try that. So you can do it with or without the chair. If your balance is good, it may be challenging without the chair. So if you're going to step back, make sure you have a chair handy and you're able to put your fingers on it for support if you need it. So going back and forth like this, or even working with one hand like this. We've done this before, and then softening the knees, coming back, and then doing the other side. Lifting up, straightening the legs, and softening, and then lifting up and straightening, and coming back and forth like this. And if you want more of a challenge, if your balance is good, you don't have to use the chair. Don't have to use the chair. You can also add the breath to it. So inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling, softening. Notice my knees are soft here. They bend only a little. And then when I inhale, I lengthen, I lift up. I get that nice, it's almost like a mountain pose with a little bending of the back, a little dancer pose. And actually this is, in yoga, we do have dancer pose where you're holding your foot behind you and your arm, you're like this. But we won't do that today. And a few more times. And then coming back down and open and close the hands a few times. And shake out. We're going to moving from side to side. So this is we call this coat sleeves. And if you are sitting, remember you can do the same thing, seated like this. Just watch out for the arms of the chair and the back of the chair. And before we sit down, I'd like to do triangle pose. So if you're seated, you'll come into a wide stance like this. And then you'll bring the arms out to the side and then down the legs. If you're standing, it pretty much looks the same. Feet come apart, arms come out, and then I'm going to let the hand come down the leg. So I start to bend over, hand comes down the leg. More challenging, feet wider apart. Less challenging, putting the hands on the hips. And same thing seated too. If it's hard to hold the arms up, and for some people the shoulders bother them. So don't force your shoulders to be uncomfortable. If you want to try something in between, you could lower the arms down perhaps and come down like this. So the arms aren't up quite so high. So you sort of have this is the most challenging, medium, the hands are down a little lower, and lesser challenging, the hands are down on the hips. And let's come back up and come back to our mountain pose for a moment. And we're going to sit down. So finding our comfortable seated mountain pose, and then inhaling, circle the arms around. We'll do this a few times. So find your own breath and movement here. Inhaling on the way up, exhaling on the way down. See if this feels a little more open for the shoulders and the heart and the chest than when we started. Maybe even the neck and the hips, a little more rocking back and forth. Or ease of movement. So we're always working for ease. And bring the palms together and release the hands down. Always working on ease of movement. And then one more time around. And let's come into our Shavasana. So finding a comfortable seated position with enough warmth so that you'll be comfortable seated. So we're going to start to cool off as we're not moving anymore, and our temperature is going to drop. So we want to make sure we're warm enough that we're comfortable. Otherwise, it's very hard to relax. Feeling balanced on the left and the right, left and right feet, left and right thighs, left and right buttocks. Inhaling and extending the spine up, extending the back of the neck up. And then exhaling, softening the shoulders, relaxing the eyes and face. So as we're inhaling, there's that little bit of effort, that little bit of feeling of lifting, lengthening, but just a little bit here. Not as much as when we were practicing at the beginning, because we want to stay relaxed. So we're really balancing that ease and effort and leaning more towards the ease part. Leaning more towards the ease part. So we're going to continue with our Shavasana, and then the class is going to formally end. And you're welcome to continue with your Shavasana as long as you like at home. So if you can get another 5 minutes in, or even 10 minutes, really whatever feels okay. When you don't feel like doing it anymore, stop. But 5 minutes can be a nice little sanctuary. Even 5 minutes. So thank you very much, and namaste, and see everyone next time.